weekly or maybe longer now about search engine optimisation. And I've just put a wee bit in about Facebook and what we could do with our Facebook page in the interim to offer more content there if we're struggling with the web. And at any time you can ask questions, you can interrupt at any time, and you can have a comfort break at any time as well, so we don't mind. Right. So the goals are to help you understand the various website solutions, be able to buy with confidence, enable you to manage your web presence and be prepared for the future. Right, so what is a, gone the wrong way, back. What is a website? Right. So a websites live on the internet. Right? There's lots of things that happen across the internet, and one of the things that happen across the internet is connected to devices and computers. One of the things that happens is web pages. They live under an address. You want to have your own address, www.mywebsite, whatever that be, .com or .co.uk. Quite often with the least options, they may give you a free, that's called a domain name, a free domain name, and that can be problematic for being found because sometimes it's www.wix.com / and then you add your name at the end of it, which is not ideal. Websites are hosted externally on a server. It can't live on a desktop or a laptop because they don't have the processing power or the ability for people to access those web pages, so they're stored and they're available through a web browser like Chrome or Internet Explorer or Safari across the internet. A few of you said some really interesting things about, no, I think it looks fine, I think it's great, it's fantastic. And we tend to focus on the bit of the website that we can see. That's, it seems it's not quite tangible, but almost. And then we don't necessarily think about all of the back end, where it's hosted, is it secure, can it be found, how has it been programmed, how has it been put together. If our programmer wins the lottery and runs off, can someone else pick this up? What does it look like underneath the bonnet? So we've already talked about that, the fact that the web and the internet are two different things. So back in the early days, in the first agency that I worked in, we basically took brochures and we put them online. Like, that's all it was. It was nice pages that were designed, knitted together with HTML, and it meant that instead of printing 12,000 brochures and all the costs associated with posting them out, that people could access your information much more, so rather less costly across the web. Right? That's what it was. And it has evolved substantially to a much more sophisticated list with lots of different skills that are required to put together a good website. And it starts with the business case. Do people Google the thing that I sell? I think we're pretty much safe here to say that in this room, yes, they do, but there are still some sectors emerging. Not only do they Google what they sell, but what is the customer journey? So if you think about it, nobody ever Googled a Wii Fit when it first came out because we didn't know what that was. Nobody Googled a Nintendo, we didn't know what that was. I'm working with a textiles company in the Borders just now, and Business Gateway sent me in to fix their website. The website is rubbish, they know that, right? So we're fixing the website, but predominantly to look at their search engine optimisation so that they could be found. Their customers are brand managers from places like Nike and Under Armour and Mizuno. Though I know from my business experience that people like that don't Google someone to embroider 20,000 polo shirts with a Nike golf logo. They have a network of people, they speak to one another. So it's about working out what is that website for. They still need a website, and I will fix all the search engine optimisation, but it's not the priority. And I like to understand all of these things before I embark on that web project so that I can resource that adequately and I know how I'm going to break down where I spend the money. Right? So I'm not going to rush out and try and, I'll explain this and that in the afternoon, but I'm not going to rush out and get lots of backlinks necessarily for their website just now. We'll improve the website, but I'll focus a lot on LinkedIn and lead generation. So that's about understanding the entire business case. Brand information. And this happened when the web emerged and people built websites, this happened, and when social media emerged, the same thing happened. You would have a logo or an identity of a colour scheme, and then you would have a bit more freedom to the website and think, I think we'll make it blue. Right, so your website would look completely different from all your branding, and people do that with their Facebook page and their Instagram. Think, well, we'll just pop that image up, and you don't look the same across all of the platforms, therefore you're not recognisable. Functional specification, these down to about here, these are all things that we do offline before we start to build a website. What do you need the website to do? So if I work with an agency, they will create a functional specification that can run into pages. It doesn't really need to be pages, you could just bullet point it. It has to be able to take online bookings. What kinds of online bookings? Accommodation. Are there any restrictions around that? Yeah, it's a minimum 2 nights stay. So that's a rule. That's a rule for the website. We have to take a note of that, because we have to make sure that whatever booking platform that we invest in or agency that we work with, that they can apply that rule. Yeah? We do tours, but we can only take 10 people on a tour at a time, and a tour lasts for 3 hours, or a tour lasts for 7 hours, or a tour lasts for an hour. You need to get all of that down in a bit of paper before you pick the platform, before you decide to go ahead and design this website, because again, that's a rule. Right? So that rule will have to be written into the website so it works properly. If we're working with an agency, they would then move to a process of what we call wireframing. Sounds quite sophisticated, doesn't it? And they'll have software to do that, whereas they create layouts of what the web pages look like before they commit to building them, because that then gives you an opportunity to change your mind. But guess what? You can buy a packet of paper from Morrison's and a pencil and a pencil sharpener, and you can wireframe it yourself. You just draw it out, lay it out. What would it look like? If I'm trying to sell multiple things from one page, and should I sell multiple things from one page, how would I lay that out? So it's an easy process. You can do it in a Word document, you can do it in paper, and if you get it wrong, just put the paper in the fire, put it in the bin. Right? So it's quite, just if you're not familiar with the terminology, it's not as difficult as it sounds, and I'm going to show examples of that in the afternoon. And then we would have a consideration about how it should be designed and how users will use the website. So over the last 20 years, when I first started working in the web development, we employed designers. People would apply for that job and they would have designed a logo, they'd be a graphic designer. And my husband used to be a web developer, and he moved into a job in the BBC as a web developer, so his job was to build the pages, but he had designers who worked with them. And a fantastic designer who's just amazing at illustration, that's our core skill set. But design has changed, and we talk about UX, user experience design. So it's not about the aesthetics, it's still about aesthetics, but it's about how does design make a web page easy for someone to use? Should a button be round? Should a button be square? Should a button be big? Should a button be small? All of these impact people's experience when they use your website. So we're going to look at examples of that. But for example, people like Sainsbury's and Marks and Spencer's and Lakeland, because they make millions of pounds from their website, they will test button sizes or pages or font sizes, design styles, changing the sequence of pages, because if they can improve their conversion rate by 0.2%, that might be £250,000. If it's 20 quid for us and you can live without it, then fine. But we're going to explore that as well. Then there's photography. So you mentioned that you haven't got photography yet.
Well, I've got my own images,
which will tell us which. You're like this.
They're not good enough. I don't think they're good enough.
They're not good enough.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So they're not representing your brand adequately.
Right.
I'm going to show you this afternoon, or perhaps this morning, a variety of website templates, pre-built websites, which we sometimes call them themes or templates, and they look fabulous, but you can destroy them with really bad photography. Right? You say, oh, that's a great theme, that's going to make my business look fantastic, and I'm just going to quickly take this picture on a wet and windy day, and then you upload it, and then you think, that theme doesn't look as good anymore, right? Then there's the getting found. So I've got this website, I have to work out how to get in. And we still haven't built anything yet, right? We've still not started building, because this is all about pre-planning. What will people type into Google? What do they call the thing that I sell? So, in Caroline's example, it's couples escapes, but it's also a great place to propose, and it's also great for honeymoons. And guess what? People go on a thing called a mini-moon. I feel a bit cheated because I didn't get that. You do a mini-moon and then a honeymoon. That's a new thing, isn't it now? You go on the mini-moon. So maybe people type in you were cheated as well, right? You go and ask about that. Right.
No moon.
So you got a mini moon. That's like 3 or 4 days, and then you save up for the big ta-da. So if you want your web page to be found for mini moons, the words mini moon have to be on a web page somewhere, right? You have to label it, or you won't be found. And if the words are important, and maybe one of the navigation points might have to say mini moon, therefore the designer can't start their work and the programmer can't program the designs until we've actually worked all of that out. And the world that we live in now, which is fabulous, right? It's fantastic, it's a double-edged sword, is it means we've all got these kind of marketing departments in our pocket, whether it's on your phone or an iPad, and you can say, do you know what? I'm just going to build my own website. Oh look, I can download that. Oh, that's fantastic. Right, let me crack on. And you've started in the middle. You've started in the middle of the process and you haven't thought about all of this, right? So then there's the build, we talk about a database or a content management system on which the website would be built. Back in the early days when I was working in this space, we wrote a line of code for everything. So we'd be on our 20th website and we'd be building another product page and we'd be saying, have we not done that before? Could we not like copy and paste? And very quickly, and we discovered from companies in America that were doing the same thing as us, that they were saving their programming code so that they wouldn't build another checkout and another product page and another booking system. That's why you got all these booking systems. And they became platforms or functionality. So pre-built empty websites, if you like. WordPress, the content management system, it's on a database that stores layouts for product pages, layouts for contact forms, layouts for navigation, and it's all pre-built, so it's fantastic, saves time. Right? And then we build it, and then it has to be tested. And again, I used to do lots of testing in the late 90s, which was just click, 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 well, that's fine, let's invoice them. But we didn't test the aesthetics, the user experience. Now, someone up here said earlier, couldn't even tell what the website's about. Was it yourself? Yeah, you said, you look at it and you can't tell what it's about. So there's more to it than just functionality testing. And then there's training. Now, if you're doing it on your own, there'll be training before or training after where you have to learn how to use the content management system. So if you put the price of the menu up, you can do that instantaneously that morning. If you decide to change the menu for a Christmas menu, you can do it instantaneously. And then there's just the marketing general. I have this sense that over the last 20 years when I've been working in web development and I've been delivering training workshops and working with Scottish Enterprise and Business Gateway, because sometimes I'm given content. The reason that you saw Caroline was because I wrote that workshop. But sometimes I'm given content and I look at it and I think that we've oversold digital a bit. It's easier than offline marketing because for the cost of web pages versus a brochure, you can reach the world, isn't that? That's incredible. And with Facebook, you can talk directly to your customers. You don't have to wait while they phone you one by one, and they probably wouldn't phone you one by one anyway. So that is just fantastic, right? We can go global very quickly, and we can interact with multiple people very quickly. But it isn't magic. I said there's something like 17 billion live websites in the world. One of the most competitive and busiest high streets in the world is the www.high street, right? Where we're competing with lots of we're competing with Hilton and Holiday Inn and Airbnb and Booking.com. So we have to get this right. And we'll talk very briefly this afternoon about measurement because you said, I don't even know if my website's performing, but there are free tools that we can measure it. And then it has to be maintained because functionality changes. The content management systems, new versions of them come out and they have to be updated. And then we have to make sure, that should probably go further up. That came later on in my career where it had to be device friendly. I just thought it's quite cool, isn't it? I'm working in web development. My husband's 6 years younger than me, he was a web developer, and I actually bought one of the first iPods, and that was to kind of show off to him a bit. It was like a big brick. And I had no idea that iPod would end up being this. Because all you could do on it was listen to music, and I didn't even know how to turn up the volume. It's a wee turny thing in front. I used to kind of walk about with him like that. And look now, I can access the world from the very same thing, right? So it's a lot of different skills. And I think the decision that you get to mull over and make today as we go through this session is, what can I learn myself to keep the costs down? And what should I outsource, if anything? Or can I manage all of this? And the Digital Boost workshops are fantastic. So the government offer a range of free half-day workshops where you can just spend 3 hours just on search engine optimization and 3 hours on user experience. I wrote that one as well. I think I wrote the SE one, I don't know. 3 hours just on social media marketing. Right, so they're really worthwhile because this is a lot of different skills. Right. So I've talked about, there are over 17 billion live websites and there are 3.5 billion Google searches every day. Basically this slide just says people use the internet to access the web, therefore you really should have a website. And I'm going to show you this. Google has a tool called Google Ads, so you can run an advert and within Google Ads there's a tool called the Keyword Planner. Google have saved everything that anyone searched for on their Google database since 2004, so they can tell you how popular search terms are. They can tell you how popular it is across the world, or just in Glasgow, or in Scotland. So I looked a few things up. Right. Well, actually, I can give you the passage. So I think that's just in the UK, on average, every month in the UK, the phrase local farms to visit is Googled 210 times. Glamping, hold on, glamping on average every single month is Googled 60,500 times. Right? People want what you do across the web.
So all us trying to find out what competitors
So, damn, that's just ruined that slide. Right? In the UK, farm shop is Googled 27,100 times. Farm shop near me is the same. Farmers market near me is 9,900 times. So I just took a few phrases, but to demonstrate, the world want you. They want to buy from you. And labelling your website so that they can find you is really important. Right. So, people want to buy you. So things to think about getting started.
Lesley, can I just say, those figures as in numbers of times someone's looking for, pretty small.
You think that's small?
I thought 60,000 times for glamping in the UK, that's pretty
That's
poor.
every single month.
That's poor. Only 60,000 times in.
But that's only one phrase. There might be camping, glamping, accommodation, family. People call the thing that you sell lots of different phrases. So that's just a tiny, tiny bit of research. How many do you need a month?
No, I thought it was more than that.
Right, so things that we need to think about. If you build a website, and you can use this kind of keyword research and demand to look at how much demand is, but that's the business case for your product or service. Over the next 12 to 24 months, how much money do you think that website should make you? So I think that you need to start with those type of goals, and then realistically think, if you want that website to make you £50,000 in a year or in 2 years, then how much do you think that you should spend on it? If you wanted to make £50,000 and you spend £150 on it, right? Because that's not going to cover photography. Then, so you've got to think about it realistically. It's the busiest and most competitive high street in the world. There are over 17 billion websites, and there are 60,000, I thought quite a lot, of people looking for glamping, and there are a lot of glamping options. So what's your budget? But also, I want to make sure that you get a return on investment from this. I don't want you to spend money. You shouldn't be spending money not to make money back. It should pay for itself. It should be like a member of your marketing department doing a job and making you money. How much time do you have if you have to learn a new skill? Do you have the time and resources? It might not be. It might be a steep learning curve for some people. Some people just, you obviously, you've started to use, you've used WordPress, you've used Weebly or Wix, Weebly,
yeah.
and you've got your head around it and it's great. And then other people do and other people don't. So I think you have to make a decision about if it's going to take you 5 or 10 days to master it and get your head around it.
It was 5, 6, 7 years ago when I first started using it, so that's
So it's the skills that are
build
applied.
it in a month or less.
Sorry?
Well, I did it through the evenings, through a month, a couple of hours a night. That's because I've done it before.
Okay.
Whereas the first time I did it, I was exhausted.
Okay. But that's okay. No, but well done you for doing it, because I do think that we either have to raise our awareness of what we're buying in terms of digital and or invest in some digital skills.
I've got no money at all, but you can learn anything on YouTube.
Yes.
I got an accountancy job, I had never done it before, but I just learned it on YouTube and told them I could do it. It's all fine.
You're a blackguard.
I don't think my brain works like that.
There's kind of a ceiling there, right, which is bookkeeping, web development, and on this side, hip replacements and basic. Right, so there's a
It's all on YouTube.
No, okay. Don't anybody complain later on about a dodgy hip or a sore knee. I've only put there it might be a steep learning curve. Some people sort of take to. I love the design side, I love the photography and the image, but I don't like the programming. My brain just goes, nope, I'm going to sleep. Right, don't want to know anything about that. Okay. So at the very minimum, what do you need to buy? You have to buy the domain name, the address where you live at. You're going to have to buy into some kind of content management system. We're going to talk about them a lot more in the afternoon. I think that you have to invest in some photography, right? But that's about you taking control and saying, what do I really need photographs of? How can I enable someone to come and do that without them spending 2 hours? So, if you've got a farm shop, don't invite the photographer in and the place is a mess and it needs tidied up and the shelves are empty and there's no stock. It's about being prepared, because a lot of the times you can probably on average, got to watch this on videos, you can maybe nail that in an afternoon. So I'm not necessarily standing here and saying that you need a 5-day photo shoot to get all the photography you need if you're pretty organised about it. And the challenge is that although the phones are getting better all the time, when you have a professional photographer with a professional camera, you're getting more depth in your image, which means that they're high resolution and they don't become grainy when you put them up. And you should have someone who will have the lighting equipment that can make a judgment about when's a good time or not to take a photograph. And actually somebody who will tell you that's not really a very good image. Someone that will actually not just come and do the functional job but give you advice. But we can talk this afternoon that there are lots of really great stock photography websites as well that might help you supplement your own photography.
It's quite interesting though, because we got just a friend to take photos, but he was very good at it. And then when we went from Airbnb normal to Airbnb plus, they sent their own photographers down and they weren't nearly as good as our photos.
They weren't?
No, they weren't.
But it's difficult though, isn't it? We're going to talk again about that this afternoon, about trying to decide, who is the best supplier. The website needs to live somewhere, so it needs to be hosted, and that hosting has to be secure. So it has to be on a server that has software that means no one can break into or attack your website. And these are conversations I have all the time with people, and they'll say, why would I pay them £200? I can go there and get it for a tenner. And I'm like, right, what are we getting for the tenner? Is it secure? Does this website ever go down? How reliable? Can we phone the hosting company? Can we speak to them if we've got an issue? And then it has to be maintained. So we have to take all of that into account. Right, let's do some fun stuff now. Studies have suggested, and you may struggle to be up there at the far end, but studies have suggested that we make up our mind about web pages and about content in general in less than 7 seconds. Right? So 7 seconds. So you're now all consumers, and I'm going to show you some web pages that we're going to load in the right order, and then you have to tell me what they're about.
Haggis or something.
Tour
Food.
company.
You kind of just got to the 7 seconds, right? So it's Grant's Haggis. Would you change anything in that web page?
Yes.
Picture.
The
Film
picture looks
picture.
like it's a tour guide
Yeah,
company.
doesn't it? Right. But they have updated it.
No.
That still doesn't seem
What?
like it. That's
Haggis.
contradictory.
Vegetarian
Yeah,
option.
I know.
It's a cow.
But we're all consumers, right? Okay. 7 seconds.
Hotel. Or
So hands up who wants to book.
Accommodation.
Kay's not in. Kay's
I
not
do
in.
for 50 quid for a room and a discount on the
I
bar.
the photo of the room looks awful.
Right.
There's
So,
not enough.
so you I think
That's after I've had my £5 discount at the bar, that's what I can see. That photo.
It's
Well,
not.
it's a bit
It's
low.
not very balanced. There's too much. Not enough photo. Too much.
Mhm.
That big
I'll see
block
if
at
that
the
what
top.
do you think it's going to be like when you get
It's
there?
not on a mobile as well.
Dreadful.
How do you think it's going to be dreadful?
The photo's terrible.
Free
It's
breakfast.
blurry. Blurred.
Room is only from 50 quid.
Fan club.
I think it looks smelly.
Yeah.
Because as human beings, we've got all these experiences we acquire through life and things that mean. So I look at that as that. Do they call that wallpaper as anaglypta? Is that what that's called? Right, and that looks fusty. So from my memory bank, so even though it's a flat image, my memory bank has this kind of smell in my head, and I think I'm not going. Not even with the £50 and 5% off. Right. Who said, oh Jesus?
Sorry, I'm dyslexic about it.
Too much writing.
So this is the embroidery company. We're about to relaunch their website, right? It's just, what do you even do? I mean, it has to work. Right, it's there. Okay, are you ready? Now,
It says it does what it says.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
and what are you? What's the call to action? How do you buy it?
Book now.
Right, it's dead simple, isn't it? It says what it doesn't. It's got a big button that you can buy. It's really obvious. It's pretty
I
obvious.
prefer that being a circle, I think.
Why would, okay, one point, why would you not put book now underneath the middle bit?
Well, no, yeah, so you could. Right.
Because I couldn't see
I
that.
didn't see book now.
I didn't see book now initially. It depends.
Okay, so I'm going to.
But
This
the
might.
question was, do you know what this does in 7
Yes.
seconds? Not, can I book in 7 seconds?
Yes.
I do not
Okay,
book
no,
that.
but you've made a really good
Yeah.
point.
It's all good feedback.
Yeah.
It's all
You
right.
made a good point.
I think
And
there's
actually-
like data on like where your brain tracks, isn't there? Because
Uh-huh.
it goes like this.
So
So you see the picture and then you automatically look
Start
for more
looking around
information
it.
and then you
there's a couple of things. We could move the button, and Sainsbury's would move the button, and they would test it and they would gather data. Actually, what Sainsbury's would do is they would have two versions of the page, and Kay would log in and get one version, I would log in, and they would randomly show it and gather all the information to see which one gets more clicks, and they'll make a decision based on the data.
Sounds
Right?
interesting.
And we all have to live to expect that as well, that maybe the website we have is not always, we want to have something where we have the flexibility, maybe after 8 weeks or 3 months, that we can make small changes. However, the second thing is, if you think about your online banking and your food shopping and buying clothes from Marks and Spencer's, most of them tend to have a call to action over in the top right hand corner. That's where a basket is, where a book now button is, where a login button is, and that's because we've learned to use the web and we've got used to using it. And it's a bit like you say, it's a bit like going to your favourite supermarket and you know where everything is. So there are some just standard rules about how we should design pages. The shopping basket icon is something that we're all very familiar with. And many years ago, I worked with the lovely people who ran a skincare company who said, no, we're not having a shopping basket, we're going to have a satchel. And I was like, no, you're not having a satchel. What do you know what a satchel is? Right? They want a shopping basket, don't be ridiculous. Right? So we have to be aware of all of these things. And what drives users. So a few people have alluded to this when we did our introductions. About the aesthetics and the photography and how something looks, and this 7 second rule about whether we make our mind up about it or not. We only had one volunteer to go to the 50 quid accommodation because it didn't make us feel good. And studies, this figure varies from about 70 to 85%, that says that buyers make decisions, 75 to 85% of the decisions they make are based on how something makes them feel. If it's
just going back to that last image there are very few, and that is a good image, and it's the power of the image. I'm immediately living the dream of luxury, which is 80%, and am I looking for a
Are you
button?
going to
No,
book,
I want to
Eric?
finish my dream first.
Are you going to book?
I'm
Are you
not.
going to book her?
by the end of the evening, you never know.
Then the other 20% creeps in.
Do we get a discount, Caroline's anyway? Is there an agritourism?
We'll be hearing from our sponsor at the end of March. So that's really important about how you, and that actually is a lovely follow-on from the branding workshop that we did in Loch Lomond, because that's part of your brand identity as well, about how you present yourself, how your visual imagery, the colour schemes that you use, and how easy or not it is to interact with your website. So, do you really need a plan? What do you think? Yes. Good. It's good. Well, later on, we'll be having Doogie and that. So, I alluded to this, that online user experience has come. It's a big business. There are companies in London who just specialise. They don't build websites. They just specialise in online user experience. They don't do search engine optimisation. They just focus on online user experience, the aesthetics. And there's a new phrase. We work in the world of consultancy, there's always new words. So I've been learning about online user experience, but now we call it removing friction, right? But we're living in a world where we remove friction. Right? The digital experience is becoming as important a differentiator from brands as product and price. So those big e-commerce companies and big online booking solution companies who know that they're up against 17 billion websites are thinking, how can I just nudge myself ahead? And user experience is one of the things that they can do to nudge themselves ahead. So just to give you some examples in real life, what is it about Uber that makes it a good user experience in this busy, fast world that we live in?
You can look it up on your phone and you see the little cars driving around and you just click on one,
Uh-huh.
ga-ding, and it arrives.
So was that?
Well, no, it's that.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
just that.
you
It
know,
does-
so I don't use it, but I had this really strange Uber experience in London with my young cousin who's lived in London now for about 10 years. She's 28. She said, oh, I'll just book an Uber. And then she was like, well, it's here. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So I can run behind her all the time when I'm in London. We sat in the car. I sat in the front. I chatted away to the guy. She got out the back of the car with the kids. They wandered off. And he's like, oh, no, I've been paid. I was like, I didn't notice that happening.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, no, it's all in the app. I said, you didn't even speak to him. She went, why? I was like, okay, all right. Okay. So that's incredibly convenient, and it's a great user experience because you don't have to speak to them, right? So there we go. And who uses Instagram? So Instagram, if you have a business page on Instagram, on your profile you can add lovely buttons like shop or email or call or whatever it might be. If you sell tickets to an event and you use the Eventbrite app, Eventbrite has partnered, as have many applications, with Instagram so that on your profile page you can say get tickets. Right? So this is about removing friction, because guess what friction is? Friction is having to close an app and go to a different app. Oh, I know, right? It's horrendous. Or moving tabs on the browser. Right? Because something might happen when you do that. You might veer off into WhatsApp and forget that you were going to buy a ticket. So it's about convenience. But you know, just to demonstrate what I mean, that's a brilliant example of user experience, right? Is the modern day sauce bottle. Why?
All right.
Right, because the other one always gets the sauce stuck around the top, and then you have to get a knife in to get the rest of it out, and then you have to batter the glass, and then with this lovely squeezable bottle. That's user experience, right? So that's the world that we now live in, where we're making our life very convenient. Right, so I've got this video. The volume in this one's not very good, so I'm not going to play it, but I'll basically say the marketing director from Hilton who's talking about improving user experience for their guests, and that you have an app now. So if you book with a Hilton hotel, you can book on the app, don't have to speak to anyone. You can arrive at the hotel, still not speaking to anyone, check yourself in, and then hold your phone over the door. I know, right? Okay. So I'm just using these examples to demonstrate to you how important this is. Right. Common causes of friction, why people would leave your website other than it not being aesthetically pleasing, is it takes them too many clicks to get to payment details. They have to fill in their life history to pay you, so there's no guest option. There's only one means of paying you, and it doesn't include PayPal, which means they might have to actually go upstairs, find their wallet, open their wallet. You know, it's just horrendous. They might have security concerns because it's not secure. There might be hidden charges that they're not aware of because they get added, an additional fee gets added when you pay by credit card. I don't know about all of you, but I expect free delivery on everything. Now, I don't mind that it's free delivery on £50, but I've worked out, there's a website that I like using called Feel Unique, where you can buy lovely toiletries and makeup and whatnot. And if I get to something like $43.50, it actually works really well in their favour. I'm kind of like, I'm going to have to pay a £5 to get that delivered. So I will go all out. I'll buy another lipstick. I'll buy 2 of the shampoos. So they get more money off of me, but it's a psychological thing, isn't it? I want, because it says the word free. So I want free delivery. And these are all things that will stop people checking out and whether or not it works well on a mobile device. Right? So there's a wee grid there about 9 out of 10 consumers say that access to content, however they want it, is somewhat or very important. More than 9 out of 10 agreed with the statement that good user experience just makes sense. Right? And sometimes, with the templates, these pre-built websites that you get on Weebly or Wix, the ones that are either free or very low cost don't always offer the best user experience. But we need to go back to the business case and talk about what's fit for purpose. So you need to think about, are you trying to build your brand globally? Are you trying to build it locally? How many customers do you really need? How many bookings do you need? So I'm not suggesting that you contact Sainsbury's today and say, who built your website? We need them. Right? I'm not saying that at all. Okay. Right. And just another couple of quotes there about user experience. But this is a good example as well. You know, design the path, and people make their own path. I'm going to try and run this video because it's quite light. But this video is really about labelling your website as well, thinking about the structure of the website so that people can easily find the things that they're looking for. Now, I did not grow up with this, right? So this is new to me, and some of you will not make eye contact because obviously some of you have grown up with it, some of you haven't. And I always think, how can we make it work better? And I always think about how we behave in the offline world. How do we find things in the offline world? Because I think we're quite good at the offline world. I think we're good at offline shopping and offline selling, and you're all very good at offline networking and being social, right? So, and one of the things that's wrong with social media is people are not social on it. And so this is an example about how things work in the offline world, but it's plagued by how we've adopted the online world, right? So let's see if we can bring this up. It should be fun, and hopefully you can hear it at the back. Let's see the volume.
Hello, just after semi-skimmed milk.
Your search for semi-skim milk returned 0 results.
You don't sell milk?
Your search for milk returned 52,256 results. Your top hit, milk of magnesia.
No.
Milk floats of yesteryear.
No.
This milk-themed family wall planner.
No, sorry, I'm just looking for, normal milk.
Couldn't find what you're looking for.
That's what I'm saying. I couldn't find it, so I'm asking you if you could.
Advanced search.
Alright, let's do this. Now, go. Yeah, okay. Milk. Please narrow your search by using one of the following filters. Kayaks, packet 12, self-cleaning, breakfast and coffee. That one, breakfast, 1 result.
Milk, skimmed semi.
Semi-skim milk. That's what I first asked you for.
It's milk skimmed semi.
So it seems simplistic, doesn't it? And having worked on many web development projects, and I understand that most clients would come in and just say, just you. This is what I do for my accountant. Just you do everything. I don't understand any of that, and I have no interest whatsoever. And then he brings me back my bill, and I'm like, well, I'm quite interested. And they say, no, just you go and do that. And all of the content gets given to someone who's an excellent programmer, right? They're fabulous, master's degrees, you name it. But they don't work in farming or in tourism or in retail, and they go, I haven't got a clue what any of that is. And they just cut and paste it all in, because that's what you gave them, and then that's what they give you back. Things that are not labelled properly or don't make sense. You know the brand Ultimo? Underwear, Michelle Moon? Mm-hmm. My husband built her first website. I don't know if she knows that. And Derek used to sit in the office and say, put up a picture and go, thong, brief. So at least he had the sense to ask, didn't he? So that he could label it properly. But it can go horribly wrong. Right? So, good user experience removes friction. So it's got to look aesthetically pleasing, and it's got to be easy for the user to use. Now, it probably is easy for you to use if you built it, because you know where you put everything, right? And you're familiar with it. But it's got to be intuitive. People have got to get it right away.
It's really hard to take a step back as well and go, what was wrong with it? Do you know, when you look at it, it's, if you've done it, you think everything not right about it, but that makes sense. But as you say, you do need that.
And they're simple. You don't have to go down to London. You could actually just contact 5 of your friends or neighbours. Maybe not your mum, because maybe your mum always says nice things to you. So
No.
okay, well, no, your mum. She's honest. Your mum. My mum just always says. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, well done. That's lovely. The worst cake in the world. Did you make that? Right. So maybe your mum. Everybody ask Anne. You're going to go us away. Right. Just give them five people, and each give them a thing to do. Because a website should be goal orientated. They should book, or they should be able to find out information about an event, or they should be able to read an article. So 5 people that are going to be honest with you, and just ask them to feedback about how easy or not was it for them to do the task that you gave them to do. Right? So, and I don't know whether that costs a bottle of wine or... Sorry.
Sasha, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
would you say, in a way, because I think people get really hung up on how beautiful something looks, and that actually comments that we do get, positive comments that we get about our website are basically like, they all say, it's very easy to use.
Excellent,
Very easy
that's
to use.
brilliant.
So, but it looks crap. but it's easy to
So
find your way
Is
around
it you that says that it looks crap, or is then, or do they come and say it looks
well,
crap?
nobody's ever going to say, God, your website looks rubbish, but actually it was easy to use. They're not going to say that because they kind of found what they wanted, which is organic meat from Scotland. So they found organic pastorally raised beef from Scotland, and that's quite an unusual thing. So they're going to kind of look at the terrible picture of a cow and some clunky text and go, well, that's all right, but at least I can book now. So I suppose, what are you saying? What if you're going to focus on something? Is it better to focus on a seamless user experience?
I think that how it looks, whether it's aesthetic pleasing or not, is part of the seamless user experience. I just wonder if you
that's
think
wrapped up in that.
I just wondered if you think it looks bad because you've looked at it so much and you're bored looking at it.
Well, there's part of that, but it's also
Right, okay, I know that.
I don't think it looks as bad as you think.
Oh, Caroline.
I think we've got a good opportunity here to share everyone's websites.
Yeah, we could do that, couldn't we? That's a good idea.
And be
Yeah,
honest.
let's have a look at it.
I'm having a look at it right
We'll
now.
think about that over lunch and you can decide if you want to do that or
I
not.
do also think though with the user experience, like I know my discipline's fallen away, so when we first started doing the website, on it, checking it all the time, and then you just presume it works, and then I'm sitting here this morning going, oh, why is my pop-up camping page not on?
My
you know what I mean? Because it's funny because you just don't, and it's like, I don't.
And it takes someone to message you to say, I've tried to book a ticket and it's not working. You're like, how many people have done that and not messaged?
Why can you not do a fortnight stay? That's odd.
And when you pay
for some reason, it seems to sometimes drift off.
When you pay for monthly maintenance, that's what that person should be doing, and not just changing colour schemes for the sake of it. There should be a list of things that need to be maintained, and I have to say, in my experience, it just never, they're so glad that you signed up for maintenance and they've got a retainer, but in my experience there never is really a meaty agreement about what that maintenance really means and what you're actually going to get back for that monthly fee. So, good user experience removes the friction. Right, here's the next bit. We read online differently from how we read on paper. When I say we, I probably mean most of us of a certain generation. Your brain adapts and evolves to new environments, so I'm kind of wondering what my children will be like in 10 or 15 years, because they've really grown up in the device world a lot, and the schools in Glasgow have given out the kids iPads to do their homework on, so her brain will be adapting to constantly retrieving information from a screen, and a screen that emits light. Right, so the light that is emitted from the screens is part of the thing that slows you down when you try to read online, but there'll be someone locked away in a cupboard somewhere at Apple or Google doing something about that to make it friendlier. On average, the report suggests that we read 25% slower and we don't enjoy it so much. There have been numerous tests run where they give people a book, 30 people read a book on a Kindle, 30 people read a book on paperback, and then they get a test and the Kindle people fail, they can't remember. They don't even know the title of the book because you're picking up and down. So we just have to be mindful of that, and essentially we write less online. So this is a great example. It just says you're probably going to read this. It's a short paragraph at the top of the page. It's surrounded by white space and it's in small type. It says to really get your attention, I should write like this: a bulleted list, occasional use of bold to prevent skimming, and short sentence fragments. Right? So it depends, probably some of you might have gone to a blogging workshop and you're now like pouring your heart out into the blog because someone says create fresh content, write copy, be found, but there's a style to write it so that it's easy for people to digest that information and find the information. So, and then there's just the content in general. Do you like my image? Do you get that? Yeah, I was really pleased when I found that. Right, okay, and it says that we process visual imagery 60,000 times faster than words. So your pictures need to tell stories. So we need to think about the image on landing pages. Right, I'm going to explain what I mean. I don't just mean the home page of the website, because this morning many of you have told me that you sell a variety of things. So if I click on the navigation to go to the cafe, or the navigation to go on the farm tour, or the navigation to go to the accommodation, I need a picture that represents the product for sale and that's fairly emotive. It's just reminded me of a client I was working with recently, and I've not brought the picture, but I wish I'd brought the picture. Frances is an upholsterer, Frances Hedron, and she upholsters beautiful chairs and sofas and whatnot. And she had a cover image that was of a 2-seater sofa, and there was nothing else in it. It was a 2-seater sofa. And I said to her, I know that this is what you do because you've told me and I've met you in person, but if I just looked at the image, Do you sell sofas? I don't really know what you do. So how could we enhance the photograph? Well, she has the big fancy scissors and she has lots of bobbins of thread and she uses amazing fabrics from Liberties of London and she has rolls and rolls and rolls. And I said, it's almost like we have to pan out of the photograph and dress that up a bit with some of the tools and some of the raw materials, and then my brain will get it because I can process that 60,000 times faster than words, and I don't like using lots of words online, and you can create a really nice, emotive, beautiful photograph. So I've just put together, let's see what I've got here, a photograph, and I want you, those of you near the front, to tell me what that is.
Coffee shop.
It's a coffee shop. What kind of coffee shop is it? Is it Greg's?
No,
Artisan. Artisan.
Where you get that nice art on the top of your cup.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Latte art.
Latte art.
Yeah. So what does that mean for price point?
More expensive.
More expensive.
Okay.
Higher market.
But nice. Really nice.
Too dark.
It's too dark. Does anyone else think it's too dark?
No.
No? No? Some people do, some people
It's
don't.
art, there's lots of shades.
It's
but
quite-
it does
it's
take
very
you a minute
modern.
to go through whatever.
It's
In the winter and the summer it might be too
What do you think you would get to eat there?
Oh, avocado on toast.
Cake.
The other thing is just
Hipster.
it's empty.
Avocado
Pancetta on the top.
No.
And a
Steak pan
poached egg.
chips? We get steak pan? No.
No.
We get steak pan chips. Right, okay. It's just a stock image that I found from a stock photography website. But we are all consumers and we all make assumptions, and it's partly based on our life experiences and our memory bank and things that mean so the kind of rustic looking table they've got. I mean, who says that? Why? I don't know, the interior designers, but actually it works, doesn't it? They've got net hanging from the ceiling, and I'm thinking this looks like a locally sourced. The way the coffee bags are presented, I'm thinking that's not Kenco, that's not Nescafe Gold. I'm thinking that's probably a local, that might be Steampunk in North Berwick, I don't know. Right? So I made
In North Berwick. Or Drift.
Or Drift, right? So I made lots of assumptions from now. It would suit some people and it wouldn't suit other people. My husband would instantly look at that and thinking he's getting poached eggs, crushed avocado, a nice big doorstop and a brilliant coffee, and we're definitely going there. And if I was to levitate to somewhere else more like a chain, he would be like trying to drag me back to go here, because it appeals to me as well. But other people would just, my mum and dad would kind of go, I don't know. It might not appeal to them.
Just hearing what you said before, every landing page should be emotive. There's nothing emotive in that other than, for me, if it had some smiling, happy customers in it or something that made it humanly emotive, as opposed, that is aesthetic.
Makes me think there's space to sit down and have something to eat.
See, it's subjective.
Well,
Yeah, it depends, doesn't it?
I think it's an empty shop, so they're probably scrap.
I actually
Jackets on the chairs. There's jackets on the chairs. There's jackets on the chairs.
If I was honest, I would say I personally think that it looks quite cosy, and I could go in there with my laptop and work. That would suit me, but it's subjective. I don't think that it particularly appeals to my mum and dad. I think that they would think that those chairs look quite uncomfortable, right? So you're creating content that was going to appeal to the customer that you want to have, and not necessarily for yourself. Right? And the very fact that it's difficult for us to read online just demonstrates the importance of not just the photography, but dressing up the photograph. Carol and I did some of this together, and I was running around Caroline's farm picking wildflowers and different things, and we were taking bites out of cakes and leaving crumbs and stuff to create this kind of mid-scene of people having a romantic getaway, where they'd just stolen themselves away from the cake and a bottle of glass of champagne to fill in the blanks, right? So this is part of the challenge that we're up against. The digital world has emerged so very quickly at a rate that we almost can't keep up with it. It isn't regulated, and it's only now that as everyone starts to discuss data usage and GDPR and personal usage, that government is now looking at legislation and think, this world should maybe be regulated. We are interacting free and easily across the internet, sharing information, and as has already been pointed out, you can go to YouTube and learn to be an accountant, right? You can learn to be a web developer and a photographer and a copywriter and maybe a surgeon. So this is actually what we're all up against, is the buyer community trying to buy in suppliers who supply digital. It is quite a difficult landscape to navigate, to find out what is the best tool and who is the right supplier. So that's something that we're going to explore after we have our lunch, right? So what can we do? I alluded to this earlier on about avoiding having marketing in our pocket. It is great, it's fantastic, because we can broadcast marketing messages across social media that will entertain and engage our current customers, our potential customers, our past customers. So that's fantastic, and so it should be. We shouldn't have to go and ask a third party all of the time. But it's all too easy just to go and sign up to Wix or Weebly without having a plan, right? So we definitely have to have the plan. I think that you need to set a goal. You need to think about what is it that you want the website to do for you, and then what does that mean in terms of a monetary value? What do you think that you can get back from that? You have to have a think about what is fairly realistic. How many nights do you sell? How many tours do you sell? How many come? You probably, if you're active just now, you'll know how many that may come through email or telephone, and how many do you want to come through online. So therefore, what is the value of the website? And then we have to think about who is it that is coming to the website and what might they want. And I'm a bit like, like if I'm going to booking.com and Airbnb, I love the search filtering functionality, because I know what my budget is, I know how many bedrooms, I know if I want to be in the centre of a city, I want to know if I'm going to be near the seaside, and really in a matter of seconds that will give me all of that information. So we have to think about, who is it? Is it families? Is it coach tours? Is it other businesses? Is it students? And we might actually have to have different pages for them. We're going to talk about navigation styles as well, and whether or not we have a user-centered navigation where it actually says couples, families, school trips. You could have that, but it's a choice, right? So we have to put the customers first. And remember that not only are we basing our decisions based on how something makes us feel, but we're generally trying to solve a problem. I need to find somewhere that will sleep 4 people for a week in the October school break that is near lots of activities and attractions. That might be my problem. I need to find somewhere that's quiet and secluded, that's just for couples. Probably Andrew, isn't it? So you need to think about what is their problem, and then we're going to start to tie all of this together. What will be attractive to them? What are they trying to solve? And what words do they use? How do they describe our product or service? And I'll finish up here since we've got Andrew coming through. And then apply offline common sense. How do big department stores and supermarkets do this yourself with very good labelling? Do a big sign in Marks and Spencer's that tells you that lingerie is on the first floor. And if you go into the lift, the board says the same thing. It says lingerie, it doesn't say underwear, because they use the word lingerie. So they don't choose the terminology. Because we live in a very fast-paced world where we're subconsciously absorbing content and messages all the time. So we've got our memory bank. So actually even changing that word from lingerie to underwear causes confusion. And you press number 1 in the lift and the doors open, and what do you see as the doors open? Lingerie. You see lingerie, right? And your brain knows that you are in the right place. And I think that's simplistic. I don't know, but I think that that those are the rules that we should apply to our website. It's pretty simplistic. If this says accommodation and I click on it, I'm going to see a picture of not haggis or a field, I'm going to see a picture of accommodation. It's just really simplistic. And I think because of the technical term, I've actually witnessed this. Back in the 90s, we built websites for London-based companies. There was a company called SF Cody, who are a sister company of River Island, but they sold like homeware. And there were 2 directors would come in, and our programmers would say things. And I was doing a multimedia course, so I was learning all of this every Saturday morning at uni, and I'd sit in the middle, and they would all nod and agree, and I was like, I work here, I don't know what they're talking about. So, and you're a finance director? Yes, definitely, that just sounds fantastic. But then I would have a barrage of complaints about fortnightly to go, that's not what we asked for at all. That's not what we wanted to do. It's like, yeah, I didn't think that you understood what they were saying. And actually, it's just really simplistic business language. I would like to sell more nights. I would like to sell more meat. It's really pretty simplistic. But I think that the technical terminology has put us off, and that we somehow think that it should be much more sophisticated online, or it should be much more complex or complicated, when really it's pretty basic, because we're really good at this offline, right? So what do people call the thing that they're looking for? Do they call it accommodation, family days out, farm tours? What do they call it? And we can do keyword research to find that out. What departments do you need? If we can use the word departments, because all of you have described to me that many of you have multiple departments. And what do you? I mean, I think it's easy if you think about it like that. What do you think? No? Maybe? No? What groupings would make sense? What kind of products or services could you put together under one label? Is that possible? And then, as I said before, there are multiple tools that will help us do the keyword research. Right, there's obviously more to follow, but I'm guessing that Andrew's coming along now from Visit Scotland. Are there any questions so far?